Miller, the revolving door parole policy is in part to blame. So we've invited both of those men to come in and debate the issue tonight. This is the first time that the two candidates who polls show are the front runners for the Democratic nomination have debated one-on-one, and we're very glad to have them both here. Now, let me tell you very quickly that over the weeks leading up to the primary, you will get a chance to hear from the other Democratic and Republican candidates for governor. Most of them have already appeared at least once on this program, and we will certainly be inviting them back again. But now let's get on with Mr. Miller and Mr. Young. And Mr. Miller, let's start with you because it was your comments, I think, that got this thing moving forward. Is Andy Young to blame for the fact that Atlanta has such high crime figures as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think certainly Andy has to share that blame, and he should not be pointing his finger at other people like the state and the FBI and commuters and conventionaires and people that come to Atlanta. They are not the ones who are responsible for the high crime rate in Atlanta.
Who should he share it with?
He should share it with himself and the state, because everybody out there knows that the crime rate in Atlanta is appalling. The people out there watching this program tonight should know that while there are 88,000 major crimes that were reported last year, and 10 major crimes are going to be reported while we're talking on this newscast, that someone has not done their work when they were on their watch.
Mr. Young, have you failed somehow here?
No, let me say I take full credit for the crime rate, because we did everything we could to catch criminals. We put in a 911 system. We put in a Red Dog unit to go around and raid all these drug houses. We gave the police new weapons and bulletproof vests, hollow point bullets. We created a partnership against crime in 70 neighborhoods where they met with the police precincts and where they developed a relationship that makes them report every crime. We have done a very good job of making our police as aggressive and responsive, and that's one of the reasons why the crime statistics go up.
Do you think people feel safe in Atlanta?
I don't know. I think that,
well, you must have some sense of it. You're out there campaigning.
Yeah, I think they do, because most of the crime, unfortunately, is black-on-black crime. It's concentrated in very poor neighborhoods, and it's mostly, particularly violent crime, is people who know each other quite often.
Mr. Miller, you say that Mr. Young does share the responsibility. I asked you with who, and you said, well, himself and the state. You're the lieutenant governor of the state of Georgia. You certainly have had some ability in terms of prison building and parole policies, that sort of thing. Where do you take some of the blame for all this?
Well, I think the state has done quite a bit in the last few years in trying to meet this challenge. As you know, Bill, we appropriated $350 million in just the last 2 or 3 years to build more than 12,000 new prison cells. But let's get behind these numbers and these statistics, the people who are actually being the victims of this crime. Everybody knows somebody in their family or some friend or maybe themselves who were a victim. And that's what I want us to look at rather than just look at these cold, hard numbers. Look at the people. Look at the human beings who have been hurt by this.
Do you think Andy Young has made people afraid of the city of Atlanta? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not. Wait a minute. I am not attacking Andy Young at all. He and I should...
Do you feel you're being attacked?
No, I don't. And I accept my responsibility. I did everything I could think of.
He says you don't accept your responsibility.
Well, let me say, I even think I made a mistake trying to blame it on him. Yes, there is a revolving door. But really, we shouldn't be casting blame in this. We should be trying to solve this problem. And I think that for 8 years, I've been struggling with a problem of crime. It may have brought us high crime statistics, but I think our city is safer because of it.
What would you do right now to help on this?
The point, let me say it in answer to that. The point I was trying to make is this. It was not Andy's highest priority. Andy Young had...
No, it really was my highest priority.
Now, wait a minute.
Yeah. It was, no, my
let me talk while you're interrupting.
Bye. Go ahead.
During this time that Andy was mayor, he added 39 new policemen in 7 years.
No, oh, no, that's not true.
No, yes, it is true.
No, it is not. I found a police force with less than 1,000 members. We had 1,200 positions, and we couldn't fill them. The reason we couldn't fill them was we were training people for the whole state. We've got policemen all over Georgia. I got them up to our 1,200 capacity, and we added 200 more. So I really increased our actual police cadre from about 975 to about 1,400.
Let me interrupt you very quickly. We're going to
I increased their pay by 60%.
We're going to take a break right now. We'll let you pause for a moment, think about this. We're going to come back in a minute and continue with Zell Miller and Andy Young.
April 22nd, 1990 is the 20th anniversary of Earth Day. As we celebrate the environmental efforts of people like you, we at Walmart realize there is so much more to be done. So many simple things each of us can do in our homes and in our lives to help ensure the future of this beautiful planet of ours. Beginning today, let's change our ways and do what we can to help make Earth Day every day and always.
In 1895, spring flowers bloomed for the very first time at Biltmore Estate. There was music in the gardens, games on the lawn, and flowers, beautiful flowers inside and out. Because here, spring has always been more than just a season. It's been cause for celebration. This year, it still is. Come to the Festival of Flowers, April 14th through May 13th. Biltmore Estate, Asheville, North Carolina.
Only a Goodyear certified auto service manager can make this guarantee.
You must be satisfied with my engine tune-up or return your car and I'll make it right.
Still not satisfied? I'll refund your money. I don't make excuses about our work or our people. You have my name on it. And my guarantee is the best reason to see how good we really are.
No excuses. Only at participating Goodyear certified auto service locations. The No Excuses engine tune-up wherever you see this sign.
I'll tell you, my mom and dad, gotta love them. They really work hard. Nice tie, Mom. So tonight I said, I'm in charge. I brought home the Kentucky Fried Chicken 5 or 10 deal. You get 5 pieces of original recipe chicken, perfect for 2, for just $3.99. They're worth it. Or for just $3 more, you get the 10-piece deal. Great for those, unexpected guests. The Kentucky Fried Chicken 5 or 10 deal. I do what I can.
We're back with Zell Miller and Andy Young, two of the leading contenders for the Democratic nomination for governor. Police strength. Zell Miller, you don't believe Andy Young's figures when he says he increased the police force.
Well, my figures say that he increased it by 39 policemen over the first 7 years, and then he asked for 100. The council wanted to double it to 200, and finally they ended up putting about 120. But let's not talk about what's in the past. Let's talk about what's in the future and how we're going to combat crime now. And I have come up with a 4-point program in what I would do. First of all, I would set up military boot camps all across this state. And I'm glad that Mayor Young has joined me in saying that he thinks this is a good idea. The second thing I'd do is I would develop drug rehabilitation clinics in all of our regional hospitals. Third thing I'd do is I would put a first-class, world-class drug education program in each one of our schools.
How much is it going to cost to do that?
Well, I would pay for that with the Georgia Lottery. It would be very expensive, but that's one of the things that we'd do with the Georgia Lottery.
But the problem with the Georgia Lottery is it will not bring in a nickel in your first term.
Yes, it will. Of course it will.
It'll take us 2 years to vote on it, and then another year to put it in place, and probably the 4th year you can budget for it. And let me say, let's not argue about the lottery. Let's stay on crime, because I agree with what you say about drugs, and we've got to do something about that. But see, I think the crime problem we're facing is much more related to education. We will always, even in a boot camp will not work unless we can also add an education component and a job training component.
Right.
And I hope we could do that.
All right. I want to touch on what is a very delicate but an important background question in all of this. Mr. Miller, you know full well that when you go after an Andy Young on the issue of crime in Atlanta, you have to walk on delicate ground, because there are people who say that the issue of race is going to rear its head in this campaign.
No, well, let me
Can
answer that
Andy Young be
no, we really don't have to worry about that. There's enough. I mean, Zell's got a good enough record, and we're good enough friends, so that I want us to argue the issue, and I want us to be able to talk about.
So if you're vulnerable on crime, it's fair
game, and anything I'm vulnerable on. But I'd just like to give Zell a copy of our record, because we've done all kinds of things with the city of Atlanta, and I'm ready to take the blame for everything we didn't do. But for 8 years, I have done everything I possibly could, and I think it's working. But I think we need the support of a statewide effort.
I'm glad to get this record. I've already gone through it pretty good. I'd like to give Andy this open letter that the police chiefs and the sheriffs wrote to
What
him
is it?
about,
Tell us real quickly
about
the
Zell
headline.
Miller's record on crime.
Okay, so you
what he's done in the
both
past.
are proud of your crime records right here. Is that a given? Why can't Andy?
Let me say I'm not proud of it because we didn't succeed. But
isn't that what Zell Miller's been saying, that you didn't succeed?
Well, okay, I plead guilty, but let's say we did everything
But what does
we
it
could
mean
do.
when you say you plead guilty? He raises an issue and suggests that you're vulnerable at it. Now you say you
And I
plead
say
guilty.
I'm
To what
vulnerable.
extent?
I'm vulnerable in the sense that I didn't stop crime, but I doubt that you can find a mayor or a governor anywhere in America that tried more things than that did more. Now, let me get on the front end of crime. The one thing we didn't get around to doing, which we've got to concentrate on, and we agree on that too, is education. That our prisons are full of people who couldn't make it in school. They're dropouts. We've got to keep kids in school. We've got to give them job training. We've got to make them assets to the society. And we've got to have prisons to keep those who we failed on.
And you make
up
the
to
point
now.
that we have to talk about with Mr. Miller.
Bill?
Mr. Miller, the state failed for most of the time of Joe Frank Harris's administration to look at the number of prisons that needed to be built, and that was part of your watch as well.
Sure it was, and I think that we have met that problem. And I think you should know that those 88,000 crimes that were committed in Atlanta last year, only 237 early releasees came back to the Atlanta judicial system. But let's get that behind us. Andy has said he shares some of the blame. I have said I share some of the blame. And what we're talking about, as Andy and I both agree, is not racial at all, but it is very, very important to the future of this state. And no matter who the next governor is, crime is not going to disappear. In Atlanta, we're still going to have it. But what we've got to do is to work together to try to decrease it as much as we can.
Last comment.
The last comment is that, yes, crime is too high. But if you compare the crime by metropolitan areas, Atlanta is number 19, not number 1. If you took out violent crime, Atlanta is way down the bottom. We report larcenies. That's purse snatching, breaking into cars, and 55% of our crime is larceny.
Right. We are completely out of time for this. I want to thank you both for being here with us tonight. And again, I want to point out that we will, of course, have all of the other candidates for governor in here talking about issues as this campaign unfolds. Kimberly?
In health news tonight, they are ugly and painful and contagious. And if you're having a problem with warts, Dr. Red Duke has some helpful advice.
Ever since I was a kid, folks told me I was going to get warts if